What's up everyone, Rafa here. I just thought to make a quick list of everything that went wrong with my car since I bought it roughly 1 year ago. So just a few disclaimers since we just didn't talk about it yet. This car was first owner when I bought it. It was all the maintenance done in Mazda. Actually, the whole history of the car was there, and it had roughly 140,000 kilometers on the car. I've been daily using it since then. The owner before was basically living by the seaside. He was garaging the car. He was using it very sporadically, especially on the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years. Yeah, basically didn't use much the car besides the first, let's say, 5 years. So yeah, I've been abusing it a little bit. It's like been through snow, through ice. It's been through like daily use in the city, cold starts, going to quick short runs for bread, for whatever. Yeah, going to work, anything like nighttime, rain. I don't have a garage, as you could have seen from outside. So yeah, it's been a warrior since this last let's say 1 year that's been on my hand. And I hope to take care of it better. So we're gonna go drop some supplies actually to solve some of the issues that I'll talk about on the list. But yeah, let's jump straight to it then. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, so yeah, for the newcomers on the channel, I'm Rafael. I'm an engineer, mechatronic engineer. I was 8 years basically working with cars and also in the automotive industry in Europe. So yeah, just a little bit about my past. So let's go straight to it then. Alright guys, so jumping straight to the problems that I had with this car since I bought it. I will do it in chronological order because I think it makes more sense, and to me it will be easier to remember as well. So point number one, actually I found out about this point the moment I was about to buy the car. So I went for a ride with my girlfriend. We wanted to test drive it, and then when we finished the test drive, she was just going out of the car and she realized her seatbelt just fell off, like that saggy old thing, you know. And yeah, basically the seatbelt tensioners on the Mazdas, especially the NC, I think they're very weak, or I don't know what happens with them. A lot of people on the forums say that you just need to clean and wax your seatbelt, something like that. But to be honest with you, I asked the used car dealer to replace my seatbelt, the driver one, and yeah, basically now I'm using it for 1 year and it's already sagging again. What I tried to do was to put the NC2 seatbelt guide on my girlfriend's seatbelt, because that one was really bad. And even with the NC2 seatbelt guide, which has a bigger opening on it, it still doesn't work, doesn't solve the problem. And mine, which is replaced new, it's also sometimes getting stuck. So I would say this is an engineer fault from Mazda. I really feel like this is something that they should have maybe addressed in some other way, but yeah, it is how it is. The problem with that is, like, there's been a lot of things, you know, when you drop somebody that doesn't know the car, like a new friend that didn't drive the car, didn't ride on the car before. When you close the door, like, and you're not aware of the saggy seatbelt, sometimes you forget about it and then you slam the door against it. And then the metal part of the seatbelt fastener thing hits the door frame, and then yeah, there's a bunch of little dings on the door. That's really not nice, and something I tried to address. But yeah, if I find a solution, I'll post it on the channel. To be honest, I didn't find it yet. Alright, so point number two, I think that was actually a few weeks after I bought the car. It was really unlucky. I was just driving normally on a country road. There was a car going on the opposite lane, and basically what happened was that there was a massive rock, and the guy didn't see the rock, and he literally went straight into the rock, and by some anomaly of physics, to be honest. I really don't know how that happened, but he hit the rock and the rock went straight to my bumper. It was unbelievable, like a shooting rock. It was literally like he would have, like, I don't know, slammed it with a bowling ball, you know. And yeah, basically I just closed my eyes and hoped it wouldn't hit anything, like maybe the windscreen. It would have cracked completely for sure. It was a big rock, or maybe my bumper, which is a like super rare bumper. So I really was hoping that it wouldn't hit that. I just heard the noise and then I stopped the car, and then basically what happened was that it hit the number plate, which I'm quite lucky for. Like, the number plate had a huge bent on it, and yeah, basically with the force of the impact, it just cracked the plastic of the bumper that holds the grille and holds the number plate frame. And yeah, now as you can see by the video, it's a little bit like loose on the right side, and actually left side if you think about my perspective. And yeah, I don't know exactly how to fix it yet. It still has something on the back of the frame to hold so it's not the problem. I've tested it thoroughly, like 160 kilometers per hour in Mexico, and yeah, it didn't, let's say, it's not dangerous that it will fall off or something like that. But I need to address it because it's getting, of course, looser and looser with time, and yeah, it's not nice. All right. So point number three was I believe, the coolant cap, or coolant reservoir actually. What happened was that, yeah, as you know, this is a faulty design flaw, let's say, or actually like a common fault, let's say, like that, of the Mazda MX-5 NC especially. It has a plastic coolant reservoir, and as any plastic, it just, like, with a lot of heat cycles, when it's warm and cold with the engine running, and then you turn it off, and then with many years of use, it just starts to get brittle, starts to get very yellow, and then through the neck of the coolant cap, or where the coolant cap attaches, it just creates some cracks. And then I was basically doing a little mountain drive, pushing the car a little bit, and just saw a little bit of vapor coming out of my hood. So I took a stop, and then I saw, like, it was clear, like the neck of the coolant reservoir was broken. I just took the car very slowly home. It was not leaking that much, so it was okay. And the temperature gauge I was checking all the time was all right. But then, yeah, that happened. I replaced it with an aluminum one from Mill Motorsport, and it's been, yeah, great ever since. But then that comes the issue that was a massive lesson learned for me. So after I replaced the coolant reservoir, the coolant cap, which was on the car, was, I guess, accustomed to already a kind of leaky system, a system that wasn't pressurized right. And then when I put the aluminum coolant reservoir, out of a sudden the whole system was very, let's say, tight, and then the coolant cap started to get loose, and then it failed on me again. Had to, yeah, basically go home very slowly because the vapor was coming out of the car. And then I bought that as well, replaced that, and once again, lesson learned, the radiator blew that time. Next problem on the list was the radiator. So same issue, like once I replaced the coolant cap, the whole system was again in more pressure than before. It had the aluminum tank, it had the right pressure on the coolant cap spring, and then on a very hot day where I was pushing the car and with the AC on and all of this, I just realized that the temperature gauge went all the way to the limit. It was super quick, which is also something that kind of bothers me about this car, that the temperature gauge doesn't really have such a sensitivity on the, let's say, middle of it. So it warms up, it shows that the coolant is at the temperature, but it has a range of working, let's say, level, where it doesn't show on the gauge, but it's fluctuating, I don't know, 10, 20 degrees. I don't know exactly how much, but problem is, like, you cannot notice when there's a small change and the engine is coming to a hotter temperature. And that's an issue, because when it did get hot, it was out of a sudden, like from the middle all the way to the top in like, I don't know, 1-2 minutes. And I realized it because actually the AC started getting hot. I stopped immediately, and yeah, it was already like all the way to the high, like banging on the limiter. Luckily I stopped in time, and I just had to call a tow truck that time. I saw immediately the radiator was leaking, and yeah, the radiator, the OEM one, has plastic on the sides, so that was again plastic with a lot of heat cycles, getting brittle. So that's the reason why it also broke. So lesson learned there was, once you fix one thing on a system like the coolant system, it's probably gonna overstress the other components, and then it's better to just do everything at once and be safe, you know. So that was something that I learned. Luckily my head gasket wasn't penalized by that, so I managed to stop in time, and the car was okay after I replaced the radiator. Now it's already an aluminum one, fully, and no problems with the coolant after that. Now for point number 4, or actually 5, 6, I don't know. So that was actually my parking sensor. The guy that bought this car, I guess, wanted to have a little bit more comfort for his city driving, or yeah, basically install the parking sensors. I actually appreciated them after some time, because the NC MX5 with the top up, when the top is up, is a little bit tricky. There's a lot of yeah, basically blind spots, which it does get a little bit challenging if it's even if the car is small. Yeah, once you're in a rush, right? I was using it as a daily, I kind of started to appreciate it. But then, yeah, one day I just engaged the reverse, and the beeping was constant, and I just realized, yeah, the parking sensor is probably faulty, one of them. I didn't manage to fix it. I threw some WD-40, as I've read on forums that this can be humidity stuck on the sensor, and yeah, I didn't manage to fix it so far. It's quite annoying, to be honest, but I don't know. I kind of got used to it on a weird way. I didn't manage to, yeah, get to a point that I felt like, okay, no, I need to fix it yet. So that's still an issue with the car. And then that also brings me to the next point. One day I was going to pick up my girlfriend, and it was a busy traffic day in the city. It was winter, and yeah, I was by the side of the road just waiting for her, and there was a bus that was stopping a little bit before the usual bus stop. I don't know why he did that, but I tried to make his life easier and the life of the people that were coming out of the bus. So I reversed it quickly, but my parking sensor was beeping on me. I felt like, okay, it's normal, the parking sensor is broken, but I didn't realize that there was a small electrical post behind me, so I hit the rear light. That was a shame. Like, luckily the metal on the car wasn't hit, so it was just the bumper that was a little bit scratched, and the worst part was the rear light cracked, actually. But yeah, immediately when I came home, I managed to put some super bonder on the, let's say, pieces. I was there like scratching up the pieces from the floor, catching all of them that I could. I managed to glue them together on a little spider web, and then I placed it again on the car, put some electrical tape around it not to let so much humidity come inside. And to be honest, it's been working so far. All the lights are still working. It looks a little bit ugly, but I don't know, I got used to it. It's kind of like a battle scar. Yeah. All right, so now talking a little bit about one issue that happened wasn't the fault of the car or mine. It was already time, was the clutch. I had to replace it. I felt like it was already like the biting point is very high, and sometimes I would drop it and it would just slip. So be very careful with that, because when I replaced the clutch, actually the disc was quite thin, and there's some screws on the disc, and those screws, they are of course much harder than the ceramic compound that is the clutch, and then those screws start to grind slowly your flywheel and make some small, let's say, friction lines on it, and that's not good. Of course, you're going to create some impurity there on the system, some metal scrapes, and that's really not good. So lesson learned: once your clutch starts to get to a biting point very high and you feel like it's slipping sometimes, and I'm not talking massive slips here, I'm talking like just, it was barely noticeable, but I just felt like something was a little bit off. It's tough to realize that if you don't drive somebody else's car, so that's why I feel like I waited so long, and I was just like babying the car, because honestly I also didn't have so much money to fix the clutch at that time. But yeah, if I would have been let's say doing it again, I would have noticed it and tried to just take care of that. 150,000 kilometers on a clutch, I think that's already enough. So that was also a good one to change. Now, talking a little bit about, I don't know which point we're in anymore, X+1. But yeah, what happened was the O2 sensor failed. It was during a trip, and yeah, the check engine light popped. It was scary for me, because it was the first time that the check engine popped in my cars, and I was like, oh shit, this could be something serious. So I immediately stopped by the side of the road. I took my, I luckily had an OBD sensor, OBD reader, sorry, that a friend had borrowed me. So I just stopped by the side of the road, put it on the OBD2 port, quickly ran a scan, and then I saw that the faulty was O2 sensor bank number 2. So there's two O2 sensors on the car, on the exhaust system. There's one that's before the catalytic converter on the exhaust manifold, and there's one that's after. And basically those two O2 sensors are going to measure how efficient your catalytic converter is working, how is it performing, if it's cleaning and doing what's supposed to do. And yeah, what was good about this was that the second O2 sensor failed, so it's not something that's gonna, let's say, make an issue with the car, because the car needs that O2 sensor, the first one, to make the mixture of gas and air in the combustion right. So since it was the second one that failed, it was simply just because, yeah, it's not gonna measure now the efficiency of the catalytic converter. But in terms of health for the engine, there's no problem here. So that was something that gave me the peace of mind to continue my trip. And I've been running it with this, let's say, check engine light, but always checking if that's the only issue, if there's nothing else. And the car has been running perfectly. It's not like idling in some weird way. I've never felt any, let's say, difference on the driving. So that's giving me confidence to keep running it like this. But I have something in store that's gonna solve this very soon. So I'm really excited for that. Now for the next issue that popped was the roof, actually, and that's yeah, as any Miata owner probably knows, like, yeah, the roof is something that it's not something that you want to fail, right? Like, nobody likes leaks, nobody likes a wet car, especially on a Mazda that's a Japanese rust box. If you have water inside your car, it's just gonna potentialize the rust, and that's terrible. So basically the problem with the roof was that the glue There's some straps, some structural straps on the roof that I believe they help once you're gonna put it down, so that it folds nicely. And those straps, they're glued. They're not sewed onto the fabric. They're actually glued into the fabric. And that glue, I guess, with a lot of heat from summer, and then just using the car, it starts to perish. And as you can see on top of my roof, like, you see that the glue kind of like just basically transpired and lost efficiency. So one of the straps actually fell off, and now on my right side I have to be very careful when I'm putting the roof down, because it doesn't fold so nicely. And it's always good to notice these things and then to, let's say, act accordingly. So I now push my hand there to try to, let's say, make the work of the strap myself, because I don't want that to then become a major issue if the roof is folded in a wrong way, and then it creates actually some cracks on the roof and then it starts leaking. So it's not leaking yet, it's all good, but just an attention point that happened, and I feel like kind of unavoidable, to be honest. Like, only if you have a garage and you're really taking care of the roof, but at some point, or like, it will fail, so it's normal, I would say. Okay. Now I actually forgot what was my last points. Let me think about this. Oh yeah, now I remembered. So the last point is actually related to the gearbox. It's been like the gear knob, actually, something that's like not so important if you think about it mechanically, but it does matter because you're constantly using it. So the gear knob is a kind of leather material on the sides, and the leather started to perish. So that's something that's gonna be resolved soon. And actually, I wanted to ask you guys, like, I've been thinking about some potential gear knobs. Like, I thought maybe to keep it original, but I was like, you know what, like, I never had a different gear knob. Maybe I'll just put a custom one, something different. And I've been thinking about this one, Nardi, a wooden one, but it's like a dark wood, and I think it would kind of match nicely with the dark interior of my car. And I kind of also dig the Type R ones, the metal ones. And I don't know, let me know what you feel, what you think, which ones you like, if you had some experience before, and I would be really interested to see, and I'll hopefully be putting a new one soon on this car. I guess that was it, guys. So yeah, as you probably like realized, nothing major with the car. Of course, like, it could have been major if I wouldn't have maybe fixed the coolant, for example. That the cooling system is something that you have to be aware of with the NCs. But besides that, it was just regular maintenance mostly. So this car has been like incredibly reliable to me. I really love it. I'm using it now, for example, winter day, but it's sunny out. I put the roof down, it's great. I can put the heat seats on, and it's just amazing. I really love it. So let me know what else has happened to your cars, maybe something that you learned as well, like a lesson learned. Share it with everybody. And yeah, I'm having some really fun plans to fix some of these issues. So now we're gonna go pick one of them up, and I'll show you a little sneak peek of what's to come. Cheers, guys.